we're going to go ahead and start then. And hopefully, like I said, no reboots. Okay, so Bob Coppedge, Simplex-IT, Cross-Shield Geek, whatever you want to call it. This is our second or third, depending upon how you define it, presentation here regarding our work from home webinar series that we're going to be doing every Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern. And we're just simply going to be discussing topics that we think are going to be helpful in this particular world scenario we're in. And again, I'll repeat that all of these will be posted on YouTube within hopefully around 24 or 48 hours afterwards. Feel free to take a look at our blog. If you RSVP'd for one of them, you're RSVP'd for all of them. It's the same link for every time. Feel absolutely free to share this with people. We would love for more people to learn about this because, after all, that's what we're doing. Or that's the whole point here. So, caveats, just like Tuesday. We're not talking about healthcare. Not going to happen. I will probably give my opinion on stuff one way or the other. They're just my opinions, so ignore them. We're looking at training, really, and we will be talking about some training stuff regarding teams. These are, in this case, there's zero cost to them. My sense of humor may come through in inappropriate ways. Oh, well. And condescending, arrogant, opinionated, nothing new here. Okay, here's our topics. Our topic today, again, teams, tips, and tricks. On Tuesday next week, we'll be talking about work from home security, and that will be interesting. And then following on Thursday with work from home habits, some best habits to use if you're in a work from home situation, and then so on and so forth. We would love to hear other topic ideas if you have them. So please, please, please feel free to share those with us. We would love to get some feedback on that. We got two types of takeaways here throughout this presentation. We got brain and brawn. Essentially, the brain ones, those are things you should think about. You should consider one way or the other about doing something. And brawn is, no, this is action. You should do something, and here's what we're suggesting you should do. And yes, it's a guy opening a pickle jar. So deal with it. Our agenda, until we get derailed, and I'm going to derail. I'm going to tell you right now, is really just setting the stage as far as what we're talking about. And then we're going to talk about some training resources. There are a ton of them out there as far as teams goes. And part of my challenge is I don't want to spend a lot of time here on just training on how to do things when there is a lot of resources out there that will do a much better and much more thorough job. So we're also going to talk about what's a good teams, how to deal with phones, some administration thing, and then we'll finish up with recording meetings and what to do with them once they're done. So, and as always, if you have any questions or thoughts or anything along those lines, please just add them in the chat, and I'll try to pay attention to them. William, is there something being displayed? Yes, you should see. Are people able to see my screen? You should see the screen, famous last words.
I see it.
Okay. Interesting. Well, it may be a resolution issue because I've got a relatively larger screen. I don't know. And essentially, it's going to be one of those, you can watch the recording or the like, and I'll try to be descriptive as possible. So the topic for the day is essentially collaboration is the buzzword, and it's got to be the buzzword both in terms of the change in terms of our workforce situation, both in terms with we have never been asked to do more with less. In terms of a dramatic changeover for organizations, whether it be the work from homes or a portion of folks have been furloughed or whatever, all of that. I also want to point out that there are similar products for collaboration, Zoom, Slack, and the like. The concepts will work, not necessarily the specifics on the details. So your mileage may vary. Now, Teams is actually included with a majority of Office 365. It's a Microsoft product. It is essentially replacing Skype for Business. It is included with almost every Office 365 subscription. So the odds are you have it. Now, whether or not it's installed, whether or not it's assigned to you, that's kind of up to your organization and your IT folks and all that kind of fun stuff. So, but the odds are if you've got Office 365, you've got access to it. Now, Microsoft and Google have both announced that if your organization doesn't have Office 365 or Google Docs or the like, that both companies are offering, I think it's up to 6 months free to use their products. It's only, in Microsoft's case, it's only the E1 license, which doesn't give you all the Office products or the like. I'd be a little bit careful before I go too far into that, unless you're already planning to make that plunge. If you have any questions on that, absolutely feel free to reach out. Because especially from an email standpoint, it's really hard to go back. So once that 6-month period is over and suddenly you're expected to pay for this stuff, if you weren't expecting it, that could be a bit of a shock. So you'll hear Zoom and Slack talk about those are depending upon the license that you want and how many people and how significant you want the capabilities to be and all, that's either free or relatively cheap as well. Now, for all of these products are having challenges right now simply because the weight, the amount of workload for these guys has shot up significantly, as well as all of the new users, all of the new organizations. So their support is stressed, the infrastructure itself is stressed, all of that kind of fun stuff. So be aware that all of these products may have some challenges right now. They're still going to be better than having nothing, but there may be that. So from a business perspective, especially if you're an organization that's gone through some changes in terms of how you're dealing with your workforce. But by the way, William, I just saw you left and came back. Do you have that? Do you have the screen this time? Just curious. Cool. Great. Third time's the charm, or second time in this case. Again, I will get back, and I'm going to get back to this a lot here, is every time we try to introduce change into an organization, there's the eternal triangle, and that's time, cost versus quality or features or whatever you want to call it. And you can only impact one of these three. Or if you impact any one of them, you impact the other two as well. If you try to do something and save money, your quality is going to suffer, so on and so forth. So keep that in mind from an organizational standpoint if you're going to try to implement some kind of collaboration environment here. Now, one of the cool things is that right now, a lot of organizations, we have time or we have much more need to do this. So this equation's actually changed a little bit, which is unusual. So just to point that out. So can your organization use the product? If so, go for it, lead. In any change, you're going to have some people who are going to fight this. They're basically going to say, no, I like to have that face-to-face, maybe not now. People who are basically going to say they don't like this technology, whatever, look for low-hanging fruit. Especially if you have regular meetings like sales group or departmental meetings that have gone on regularly, and it used to be face-to-face. Now you've got a way to do them. We've had to transfer all of our meetings. We're a follower of EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. So we would have our L10s, which is the management group. We have our T10s, which is the tech group. The M10s, which is the marketing group. All of those are now done remotely. We do them through Teams. And we'll talk about how to do that and all that as we go through. First of all, this is the important slide, okay? If you're not used to using Teams, this is it. What we've got, there's 4 links down here, and again, we will be, if you've RSVP'd for this, you will get a PDF file that will have all this stuff down. So the first 2 is essentially, there's a company called Bigger Brains, and Bigger Brains has about 140 or so training modules that are available, everything from Excel, QuickBooks, and Teams. They've recently made their 5 Teams, or their 5 videos, which comprised Teams Essentials. They've made that free on YouTube. The first link is their YouTube channel or their YouTube videos for this. As you can see, they've got about 5 chapters, 5 sections on it. It's about 40 minutes long. The second link is essentially their announcement for making that stuff free. But then the third and the fourth are actually events that Microsoft puts on a regular basis. That is, the fourth one is actually the first one to take, which is getting started with Teams. And then the third one, because I can't do things in order, is more or less an introductory say hello to Teams. So those are also available from Microsoft specifically. So all 4 of these, or really 3, are online, free. You have some flexibility and you have full flexibility on the YouTube stuff. The Microsoft stuff, they have some regularly scheduled times they do this. You can share this with your organization in case you're trying to implement it throughout your organization. And that way, everybody's going to have the same training. Everybody's looked at the same thing. Everybody's seen the same thing. So absolutely take advantage of this. No matter what else you hear from me or the like, absolutely take advantage of these trainings. They're good, they're available, and they're easily accessible. So take some training, it's free. So from a collaboration standpoint, and we actually have another section or another session in a couple of weeks specifically talking about collaboration. But really, we're just talking about working with someone. You're trying to produce, you're trying to create something, having a real-time, overtime, whatever. We're going through that. Yeah. Oh, those aren't. Yeah, they're not clickable through the chat. Barry. We will be sending out a PDF that will have all of those. And Ann, you're saying that my mic isn't working well? Okay, I'll try to speak up. Sorry, and thank you for the feedback because that's absolutely helpful. So there are basically 4 ways that or 5 ways that we can talk about collaboration here as far as Teams goes. And we're going to kind of go through these. I'm not going to go too crazy on this, but really it's, are we working on similar files? Are we doing chats, audio, video, shared screens? All of this can be done easily through Teams. Okay, so it's actually pretty workable. And I'm just going to go into, and what I've got, now I brought up Teams itself. I'm actually remoted into another desktop of mine so that I'm not trying to hold a Teams meeting, because that's what this is. This is a Teams meeting. I don't want to do that at the same time that I'm going through it, because I could end up closing things I don't want to. So here's where we start with. This is more or less the full application that's running on my desktop. I can also get to it through a web browser. I can also run this to a certain degree on my phone. And you'll see that we've got a couple of things over on the left. And again, I'm not going to go through these too crazy because that's what the training's for. But you can see down here, I've got teams, which are essentially subsets of my organization. We can add guests as well, and we'll talk about that. And essentially inside of a team, so we've got, here's a team that's made up of management. We also have a team that's made up of senior techs, marketing and sales, one that's specific for podcasting. And then we've also got hidden teams, co-managed IT, internal security, hiring, sales, PBR. And for each of these, I want to just go over to the podcast, right here actually. We have that what are called channels. Oops. And the channels then have tabs here. And here's where we do the texting. And anybody in this team will have access to this at any point in time. So if someone's not available at the moment we do the chatting, they can look at it at a later time. So it doesn't have to be online real time. And we can go ahead and we can reply, we can add comments, we can do whatever, we can attach files. We also can go over to the next tab, which is files. We can add files, we can copy them, we can download. And just by highlighting, clicking on this, we can open the file, copy links, make it a tab. And in this case, it's Excel, so we can open it in the cloud, which is Excel Online. We can open it in, if I've got Excel installed on my computer, we can open it on that, or I can edit it in Teams. And if I edit it in Teams or open it in Excel online, multiple people can be working on it at the same time. The desktop version, it's a little dicier. There's some conditions there. So more than one of us can be working on this particular document at a time. This is where we can actually work on collaboration. And we don't have to worry about emailing people changes. We don't have to worry about emailing people that we're making the changes or anything along those lines. So we can work on things simultaneously, and we can also work on things, at different times. So we're given some collaboration capabilities right there. Now, again, I don't want to get too far into this because that's what the training's for. But we've got that capability right out of the gate. We can also, if we want to, add additional tabs that are only going to be available to the people who have access to this channel inside this team. And here are the built-in ones. So I can add a tab that's specific for Excel or for Forms or Power BI or Planner or any of these things. And there are also a ton of other third-party applications that Microsoft has approved that you can add as well. So there's a lot of things that you can do on this, and we'll talk about some of the details there. And I can specify for this, how do I want to be notified? So I'm clicking on the dots because some channels are more important to me than others. Some information is more important. So I can specify, do I want to know only show me in the feed? Give me a banner, everything? What? So I can specify for all new posts. I can also include all the replies for that, or anything that mentions this channel. And the reason that's there is because with all of the channels that we have, it's really easy to get bogged down. And not all of these are as important to each person. So that's one of the things right now that I think is useful. And you'll also notice that this one, Service Czars, has a lock on it. That's because not everybody who has access to this team has access to this channel. And you'll also notice the term hidden channels or hidden teams. If something doesn't get used terribly often, Microsoft will by default hide it. Again, in all of these cases, what Microsoft and what Teams is trying to do is it's trying to basically make it so that the stuff that you don't use often or isn't as important is not going to blur your vision for everything else. And it will basically learn that as we go through or as you use it. In addition, we have chat. And in chat, we essentially have, here are all of the conversations that I've had with all of the people or multiple people. So if I want to create a new chat, I can basically enter any of the people who are in the organization. Start typing a name. Okay, Rob. And it'll automatically bring up, this is the chat that I've got with just Rob. Well, I also want to include Patty. It'll then include, if I've had a conversation with both Rob and Patty, it'll include that, or it'll create a new one, and so on and so on and so forth. So I can create on the fly, any of us can, whatever chat I want to, or I can build that into Teams. And you'll notice that here, I can type new messages. I can actually create a new group if I want to. I can do a number of things. And if I wanted to, I can go, and if I have that chat already there, I can actually do the same thing. You'll notice I have the same kind of tabs. So this is stuff that's files that have been shared between Patty and I. So I've got a fair amount of flexibility here. And this is not because I am a manager or I am an administrator. I have the same ability regardless. And then you'll notice up here, I can share screens with whoever I have, multiple people, whatever. I can also do a call. Now, in this particular case, the computer that I'm connected to for this doesn't have a camera, so I can't do a camera, but otherwise I could. So I can automatically call Patty through Teams and do either an audio or a video or just a chat, share screens, do files dynamically on the fly. Cool. And good question. And you're getting ahead of me a little bit. So are the files that appear in this area only on an associated team SharePoint site? Yes. So where's the data? Where are the files? And the answer is they're actually all in SharePoint Online. So SharePoint Online is another one of the tools that's included with the Office 365 subscription. And you don't see it, but that's really where everything is stored. And another thing, and come to think of it, I should have made a slide on this. I think I may add it for what we send out, is to keep in mind that Office 365 data is not backed up. The Exchange, the email data is not backed up. The SharePoint Online is not backed up. The OneDrive for Business is not backed up. The Teams is not backed up. All Microsoft does, and Google's the same way, Salesforce is the same way, everybody's pretty much the same way, all the cloud services, is they promise to have enough backup resources so if their equipment fails, they can fail over to something that has your data. But if you delete your data, if your data gets modified or manipulated in an inappropriate way, you are on your own. So if you've moved, especially if you've moved critical corporate stuff up to 365 or Google Docs or Amazon or whatever, you need to make sure you've got a backup, an appropriate backup. And that's especially true if you're concerned about malware, which you are because you're breathing. If your 365 gets hit, or again, Google or whatever, gets hit by malware, essentially it's not deleted so you can't recover, it's just modified. So you're kind of squirreled. And there are a lot of really good and relatively inexpensive third-party 365 and Google Docs and Teams and all that kind of fun stuff, backup resources. So, cool. Okay. So just to show you in Teams, if I want to, we'll go back down to podcast. I want to create a new channel. And I can call it a test. It's a test. And I can add different privacy. The standard is everybody in the team can see it. Or if I say private, it'll set up so only certain people can see it. Okay. And again, I want to stress, take the training. Take the training. You'll see much better in terms of how to specifically use it. But so how do we create teams? The first starting point from an organizational standpoint is really take a look at your Venn diagram, or not your Venn diagram, your org chart, departments, and then or sub-departments, depending upon how far detailed you want to go. So that would be your first layer. All right. The second layer would be functional. All the managers together, all the people who are responsible for quality control, all of the people who have, security or whatever. If there's project functional base, well, like we said, quality control. If there's people who are doing the work from home project, trying to figure out how to do the transition. And then one for the company, one for everybody, that all employees can see. And by the way, we will be talking about what to do about guests, about people who are not employees of the organization. We can include them here as well. Okay, and then don't forget channels. In some cases, instead of having 20 teams, you may find that you need one team and then 6 channels within that team. All right. If you're not sure whether or not they need the whole complexity, just go with a team for that main group and then channels underneath it. Because if it turns out that we do need a team, fine, create a team. Less is more to start out with. Okay? So the mind's experience, or the thing to think about is what's the most common groups of collaboration in your organization? If you look at meetings, what's the most common groups that get together and that work together on projects or work together on things? That's your starting point. That's your starting point. And it doesn't always have to be a horizontal group. It can also be a sales manager and all the salespeople. And what that does is that allows the salespeople to talk amongst themselves, to chat, to do whatever, but also allows the sales manager to hold sales manager meetings in such a way. So, and build it slowly. The big question would be if opportunity slams on your door. And we got to move because we're running out of time. Jeez. Don't forget telephone numbers. A default Teams subscription doesn't include the ability to just call in from a phone as in a telephone, not mobile device, because you can actually add Teams to your device. There is a separate subscription, Microsoft 365 audio conferencing, which is about $4 a month. If you add that to the person who is who's organizing the meeting only, then there will automatically be a telephone number that is included. So if you see, for example, here I'm looking at Outlook, and if I do, that's all I got to do for a Teams meeting is just create Teams meeting as a calendar invite, and automatically, because I've got this audio conferencing, well, first of all, it'll say join Teams meeting, that's included, period. But I also have the option of people calling this phone number with this conference ID. That's because of the audio conferencing option. So definitely is useful to have that. Okay. So yeah, the people who schedule the most meetings, you should add that as it's $4 a month. It definitely is worthwhile. I want to talk briefly about Teams administration, which is you either go through the global admin or you can just go to this side and then log on with your 365 credentials. And here are some real quick things that you can do. The third-party apps, policy packages. The external access, that's one thing. And here's one that if you go to conference bridges, bridge settings, if any of you were here at our first work from home webinar back last Monday, everybody who entered, we got these announcements, these annoying announcements. If you go to conference bridge settings and turn that off, that goes away. So I suggest you do that. And then external access. So this will give you an idea of domains that you want to be able to join you for Teams meeting. So that's done as well. So you can actually have people from other organizations join your Teams meeting. And then guest access is another one. That's essentially what do your guests, let's see. So you have the ability to basically specify, if you allow external people, what kind of functionality do they have in Teams? So what kind of things can they do? Again, this is only available for the administrator folks, so you've got some functionality that you can grant or deny, depending on what you want to do there. Again, I suggest you turn off the entry and exit announcements and decide how you want to delegate access of that kind. And one last thing, if you do record the meetings, you then can use Microsoft Stream, is where they're automatically recorded. So in Microsoft Stream, you can actually then send this to people within your organization and from without, links that they can automatically go and watch the videos. So if you think about it from that standpoint, you can go ahead and we talked about the sales and salespeople meetings, record those meetings, post them then here and share the link with your employees so that people can automatically take advantage of the meetings even if they're not there. They weren't able to attend. Like I said, we're trying to keep these down to 30 minutes, so we are getting close to the end. Again, I would ask, very hat in hand, that if you've got any feedback, we would love to hear it. We're hoping this is useful. Stream can't be guests. So stream can't be shared with guests, but it's an MP4. It's $4 a month. Ari, it's $4 a month per subscriber, but only for the people who actually create the meetings, not for everybody. So we have two people here, Patty and myself, who have that $4 a month subscription. That's it. And only because we want people to be able to call in on a phone for meetings. Aries, the stream can't be shared with guests. I think there may be a way to do that, but by and large, no. However, you can download the videos and then post as an MP4 file, and then post it on YouTube or some other place that has more open access. So hopefully this was useful. Again, all we're trying to do here is we're trying to really quickly throw some stuff out there that you guys can use. We're literally spending about 2 hours or so putting this material together. So please share this information with other folks. We would love to get some feedback. We'd love to hear some additional topics that might be of interest. Again, this is what we've got coming up next on Tuesday is work from home security. The same link as you had here. And again, love to get some feedback from you. And I was just talking to somebody earlier. It used to be you'd say, "Hey, how you doing?" And "Hey, hope everything's fine." And it was kind of a, just something you just said just for yucks. Well, not anymore. So truly do hope everybody's doing well, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help. And that's pretty much it. If there's any questions or whatever, I'll hang on for a minute or so. Otherwise, hope to see you guys Tuesday. Thanks.